You didn't hear a knock. Not because no one came, but because heaven didn't want you to expect it. The moment was meant to unfold in silence, so you would feel it before you saw it. So your spirit would lean forward, even before your body moved. There it was, a black bag, sitting quietly on the edge of your doorstep. It didn't belong. It didn't carry a name. It wasn't from Amazon or UPS or anyone you knew. It was still, but heavy, and the air around it different. Something in you froze. Not in fear, but recognition. The bag pulsed, not with movement, but with memory. Something sealed in its silence was calling you. Something buried, undone, unfinished. The energy didn't ask for permission, entered your space like a prophecy long delayed. And then you remember the words. This is not a joke. 2 hours from now, your door will witness the past you thought you buried. It had arrived sooner. The time wasn't linear. This wasn't delivery. It was divine orchestration. You hesitated, not because you doubted, but because something in your soul whispered, what you are about to open will rewrite everything. You reached out. The bag was warm. Before you unzipped it, you smelled it. A scent from years ago. A faint perfume. Cinnamon? Maybe lavender and dust from old wood. The kind that only lived in attics or in the folds of forgotten sweaters your grandmother once wore. It made your eyes sting. Why would a bag, delivered today, smell like your childhood? Because it wasn't just a bag. It was a vault, and heaven had waited for you to be ready. Inside, a ring. You froze. You knew that ring. Your grandmother's. The one you only saw in photos. The one that vanished during the family reunion no one wanted to talk about. It gleamed like it had never aged. Yet you knew someone hid it. Someone close. But why now? Why here? A folded letter sat beside it. Handwritten, torn at the edge. I never had the courage to tell you the truth. So I left it here, with the only thing that still carried your scent. You paused. The letter wasn't signed, but you knew who it was from. Someone who disappeared when you needed them most. Someone who never stopped watching. There are some truths you can feel before you even hear them. Beneath the letter was an old mobile phone. Cracked screen, but powered on. The first voice memo began to play on its own. Her voice. Not just any her. The one who smiled beside you for years, sat at your table, celebrated your birthday, and lied. She called you friend, but this recording proved otherwise. She doesn't know I'm here. She doesn't know I've installed the camera and the clock. But I need proof. They won't believe me without it. You staggered. The clock in your hallway, the one that never ticked. That one. What she recorded would be the undoing of everything you thought you knew. There, on the screen, were people you knew. Their faces clear. Their voices low but deliberate. We'll move the money by Friday. She'll never trace it. We're using her name anyway. You felt sick. They were planning your ruin and smiling while doing it. You didn't open the sealed envelope until the air around you turned heavy. Red wax. Unfamiliar initials. And yet, so unmistakably connected to your story. You peeled it open, hands trembling. Inside, a will. Your name, once bold, now scratched out. But not erased. Attached. A scanned version. The original. The one before betrayal rewrote your future. It had been stolen back. Returned. By someone who couldn't face you directly, but couldn't rest without setting things right. The letter inside the envelope was brief. You were never supposed to be removed, but someone feared what you'd become. I'm sorry. I stole this back. I risked everything. Because you deserve to know. Tears didn't fall. They surged. It wasn't just pain. It was validation. You weren't crazy. You weren't forgotten. You were silenced by design. But heaven was done being silent. Folded neatly in the bottom corner of the bag was a hand-drawn map. But it wasn't geography. It was genealogy. Connections. Names. Arrows. Your name circled in the center. Around it, people you loved. People you trusted. And red lines showing the lies they weaved when you weren't looking. Conversations they thought you'd never hear. Plans they never thought would surface. She won't make it. Not if we act now. But you didn't make it. Because what they didn't count on was God. There was a USB next to the map. You plugged it in. Video files. Photos. Receipts. Proof of stolen money. Forged documents. And one file labeled, "Do not open." You did. and everything changed. A bracelet you hadn't seen since you were a child fell from an envelope labeled Return to Sender. It had been used in a spiritual ritual against you. Someone had taken your photo, placed it beside the bracelet, lit candles, spoken curses. You were meant to forget, to fail, to fall sick. But that power had been broken. Inside the bag was also a feather, one not of any bird you recognized. It came with a note. This reversed the ritual. Keep it near. Let no one touch it but you. The reversal wasn't symbolic. It was active. You felt it in your body. A weight lifted, clarity sharpened. Breathing returned to places you didn't know had gone numb. Also in the bag, a sealed photo of a child. At first, you didn't recognize them, until you looked again and saw your own eyes, a blood connection, or a divine one. Their presence wasn't random. They were part of the story of restoration. A key, heavy, silver, cold. Attached to it, a tag, room 203, chest under the bed. Your hand shook. You'd stayed in that hotel once, years ago, during a retreat. You thought the night was forgettable. It wasn't. You returned, opened the chest. Inside, letters, diaries, receipts, items that belonged to you, but had been kept hidden. Legal documents, old journals, your handwriting, your forgotten prayers. You realized then someone was protecting your legacy without you even knowing it. But that protection had shifted into permission. Heaven wasn't just covering you. It was releasing you. The time of hiding was over. You sat down. Read the final note. When you open this, I will be gone, but you will be free. This was never about revenge. It was about release. You were chosen to rise, not stay buried under the betrayal of others. You held the bag to your chest. It pulsed again, this time with clarity. The black bag had held everything stolen, and now it was all returning: legal rights, spiritual authority, emotional truth, divine justice. And your voice, not just your voice, but your roar. Archangel Michael had said it first. This isn't a joke. This is divine reversal. And now you understood. Not everything that gets left on your doorstep is an accident. Some things are heaven sent. You didn't sleep that night. How could you? Every item in the bag wasn't just a revelation. It was a resurrection of who you used to be before betrayal tried to erase you. But now the silence had a sound, a low hum in the air, a vibration through your floor, a stillness that pulsed with holy tension. And then it hit you. This bag wasn't meant to expose the past. It was sent to unlock your future. The final layer hadn't been reached yet. One last pocket, zipped shut, hidden beneath the fabric. You almost missed it. Inside, a scroll, tied with a thin red thread. Not paper, not digital, but ancient. You open it slowly, and instantly you felt it. Heat. The words were handwritten in ink so dark it glowed. And though the handwriting wasn't yours, the message was: I speak not from this world, but from beyond time. You were never forgotten. You were never passed over. They tried to delay you, but I delayed them instead. This bag is your evidence that heaven saw everything and intervened. What man tried to silence, I have chosen to amplify. It was signed with a name you didn't recognize at first, but your soul did. The name of an ancestor, one who prayed for your protection generations before you were born. And suddenly it made sense. The betrayal didn't begin with you, but the restoration, it would end with you. One more item was tucked into the bottom seam. A USB key shaped like a sword, not a metaphor. An actual miniature sword, small enough to fit in your palm. You plugged it into your laptop. It wasn't data. It was a message, a video. The screen flickered. A man appeared, unfamiliar, until he spoke. His first words shattered you. You don't know me, but I know everything that was taken from you. I know who tried to steal your inheritance. I know the name of the person who used your identity. I know what was forged when it was signed and how they covered it up. And then, one by one, he laid it all bare. Names, events, timelines, proof. And finally, he said, I couldn't come to you. I wasn't allowed. But heaven made a way. This bag, this message, it's the key, not just to your past, but to your authority. Don't just cry over what they did. Rise because of what God's about to do. The screen faded. Your fingers trembled over the keyboard. You weren't confused. You were awakened. You stared at the bag again. This time, not as a victim, but as the rightful owner of everything they tried to erase. The lies? Exposed. The property? Reclaimed. The voices? Unmasked. But more than anything, your identity was now undeniable. They thought the delay would destroy you, but heaven used the delay to develop you. And now comes the divine reversal. The door this bag unlocked wasn't physical. It was spiritual. It was emotional. It was eternal. The timeline was shifting, right in front of your eyes. Taped inside the lining of the bag, almost hidden, was a final message, written in block letters. You read it aloud, as if heaven needed to hear it echo one last time. They tried to bury you under silence, confusion, lies, and delay. But I buried your roots deeper, and now you will rise. Not as who they remember, but as who I always knew you were. Welcome to your resurrection. You dropped to your knees, not from fear, but from freedom. The black bag wasn't a curse. It was a catalyst. And as your hands closed it for the last time, something inside your spirit opened. You were never meant to live in the shadows of stolen promises. You were meant to shine in the restoration of divine justice. The timeline has changed, and so have you. You thought the bag had told its story, but the divine doesn't close chapters with neat endings. Heaven is layered, and your restoration is no different. That night, after the final message had echoed through your mind, your sleep was light, almost like your spirit refused to fully rest until justice completed its course. Then it happened. A dream, unlike any other before it. You stood in a courtroom, not earthly, but celestial. The walls shimmered like glass, but they were made of light. You were not alone. There were beings around you, majestic, armored, eyes glowing like fire but calm. Archangels, witnesses, judges of spirit, and at the center, a scroll, a massive one, suspended midair. On it, thousands of names. Yours was on that list, but it was crossed out in red ink. Until now, Archangel Michael stepped forward. He held the very ring that had been in the black bag. He raised it, and the entire room fell silent. This ring was taken, he said, but it returns not as jewelry, but as judgment. He touched the ring to the scroll. Your name glowed, and the red line vanished. The courtroom began to chant, not in English, but in a language older than sound. Your soul understood it before your mind could catch up. What was stolen shall be returned. What was silenced shall now be shouted. What was delayed shall accelerate. You woke up in tears, but not sadness. Recognition. That ring was more than metal. It was a seal. A covenant once broken, now reforged. You rose from bed and walked to the bag again. This time, not to search, but to listen. It called to you, like a heartbeat. There was a hidden zipper you hadn't noticed before, tucked beneath the main lining. You opened it slowly. Inside, a worn leather notebook. Your breath caught. Your name was engraved on the cover. Not printed, not typed, etched, hand-carved. You opened it. Page after page of someone's handwriting. Not yours, but every entry was about you. Memories, moments, dates, dreams, betrayals. Someone had documented your life in secret. Today, I saw her pass by the bakery. She looked happy. I wonder if she remembers the day I sat across from her, pretending not to care. He called me, told me to stop, that it wasn't worth it. But she is worth it. I kept writing. They lied to her. I wanted to scream, but my silence was my guilt. Page after page. Years. The words didn't come from a stranger. They came from someone who had once been family. Someone who disappeared. Someone who chose guilt over presence. And now, this was their penance. They couldn't return, but they could confess. You turned to the last page. It wasn't writing. It was a photo, taken from afar. You, standing at your old bus stop. Your face calm, unaware. The world around you blurred. The caption below, "This is what grace looks like in motion. I may never earn her forgiveness, but I will not let her truth stay buried." That afternoon, you took the notebook to your window. Sunlight hit the pages, and you noticed something new, invisible ink, only revealed by light. Hidden messages, coordinates, dates, a symbol that matched the feather from earlier. Someone had left a trail. You weren't just receiving memories. You were being called to follow them. The bag wasn't just an archive. It was a map, a mission, a spiritual treasure hunt into everything they thought you'd never discover. You packed a bag, not because you were running, because you were returning, to reclaim, to confront, to restore. You looked at the feather again. It pulsed, like it knew, like it had been waiting. You whispered into the still air, "I'm ready. Take me to where my name was buried. I will dig it up myself if I have to." And heaven whispered back, "You won't have to dig. We've already torn the ground open. Now go collect what is yours." He didn't take you across cities or continents. It led you somewhere closer, into memory, into silence, into the space between what was and what should have been. You ended up in front of an old building, abandoned, boarded up, but the symbol from the feather was carved on the wood, barely visible to the ordinary eye. You entered. Inside, dust floated like snow in the shafts of light. The air was still, holy. You moved without knowing where you were going, but your spirit recognized the path. A door stood at the end of the hallway. It wasn't locked. Inside, a single chair, a table, and on the table, a book. Not the same as before. This one had no writing, no title, but as you approached, golden letters began to etch themselves across the leather. You opened it, and page after page began to write itself. Not in your hand, but in heaven's. The things you were meant to become. The places you were meant to go. The love you were meant to receive. The healing you had cried out for. All of it, unwritten until now. The room faded. The air shimmered. And in your hands, the book pulsed like a living heart. You weren't just remembering. You were reauthoring. This wasn't a prophecy. This was fulfillment. And heaven whispered the journey wasn't over. The envelope Michael had handed you, a key, a deed, a crown, wasn't symbolic. It was literal. You felt it deep in your bones. There was one last place heaven needed you to go. One last door left unopened. You returned home. The black bag sat in the center of the room, silent now, but watchful. And then, for the first time, you noticed something underneath it. The floor shifted, a soft metallic clink. You pulled the rug away, a trapdoor, and the key fit perfectly. With a slow creak, it opened into a hidden stairway. Dusty, cold. And yet, the air carried the scent of incense and firelight, like a sanctuary long forgotten. You descended. Each step felt like a release. Each breath, a baptism. At the bottom, a stone chamber. Circular. Sacred. In the center, a box. Small, ancient, locked. But the key you just used had a second groove. You turned it again. The lid popped open. Inside, a feather dipped in gold. A folded cloth with your initials embroidered. And a second crown, smaller, child-sized. Your hands trembled as you unfolded the cloth. It was a letter, written in the same hand as the notebook. If you're reading this, it means you made it to the final room. This room was never meant for the one who betrayed you, only for the one who survived. The crown is for the child in you, the one they try to silence. Give it back to yourself, and wear yours with no shame. Tears came freely, because it wasn't about revenge. It was about return, redemption, healing. You stood, placed the child's crown gently on the stone table, and you wore yours like a promise. Then, the walls of the chamber lit up. Symbols, flames, words from the scroll. You are no longer who they remember. You are who heaven never forgot. The black bag had carried what was lost. But this room? It gave you back what was never meant to be taken. Your identity, your authority, your divine name. And as you walked back up the stairs, the trapdoor sealed behind you. Not a fear, but completion. Heaven's final word had been delivered, and it was written in your footsteps.